Hey, everybody. It is another installment of Women's History Month. And I say this every time, but I'm always excited about whoever I am interviewing on that day. And I'm excited about this person too. She is a force. And so if you were following anything that I was doing during Black History Month, and I was talking about Black businesses that I support personally, that I've purchased from, that I've done something. And this woman is just the same. Like, she is a business that is based in Rhode Island, and she's a Chicagoan. I think she has entrepreneurship just in her genes because I met her through her father, who is also an entrepreneur. And it's just been such a pleasure to know her and to see her business grow from the ground up. And Amber Jackson, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited you're here joining me because I really want you to tell the world about your tea. I
Mhm.
want folks to buy your tea. I want folks to vote for you. You are a part of the FedEx Small Business Grant, and that is so exciting. I put the link out there, y'all. Go vote for Amber every single day until March 24th. So, Amber, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so as you said, I am a Chicago native. I'm pretty much from between Inglewood and Bronxville, is where I grew up at. I went to college in the South, so spent a lot of my time between Tennessee, went to grad school in Alabama. So I went to Middle Tennessee State for undergrad. I was a track athlete there. I went to my HBCU of Alabama A&M for grad school. And then from there, I moved back to Chicago after I graduated from grad school for about a year. And while I was at Alabama A&M, that's where I started my career in athletics, and decided to come home for a little bit. Once I came home, I realized quickly that once you leave athletics, it's incredibly hard to get back in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when I was here, maybe the last 5 months of me being here, I was applying to jobs over and over again. Nothing came through. I had like recommendations from the associate commissioner of the SWAC conference. Still nothing came through. And I eventually got the job at Brown University in their athletic department, which is how I ended up in Providence, Rhode Island. Before I moved there, I had a very clear idea of, the lack of diversity there and how white it was going to be. And then I moved there, and it was much whiter than I thought it was going to be. But I had an idea, and it was nowhere close. So when I got there, it was November of 2017, and my coworkers, very, very nice people, took me out just to get to see the Providence for a little bit before, as I first got there. And I quickly noticed that almost every space I went into, I was either the only Black person or the only Black woman in those spaces. And I eventually, like, meeting friends there is a very intentional part of
Yeah.
my move there. So I used like meetup groups to meet people there. So I finally got my own like group of friends, but we complain like there's no real space for us as young Black professionals
Mm,
there. And of course, the Urban League is big in Chicago. Nelson
yeah.
is big down there. And of course, the Young Black Professionals is a subgroup of the Urban League.
It's
And
called the Metro Board here. I was a part of it for many, many years.
yeah. And so when I got to Providence, that was the first thing I looked for, and they're inactive. And so,
Oh,
and like, yeah. And so even it's a few people from Chicago that work at Brown too. And we said the same thing. Like, there's no urban league here. So that there's no structured young Black professionals group here either. And there's one in Boston, but I shouldn't have to drive an hour to be
just
around people that look like
yeah,
me.
to be around Black folks, right?
Right. And so even the Black people that I met, I think it's very clear. I think people understand even more now. Black people are not a monolith. We are very different culturally in some aspects of who we are. And so even being there, it's some Black people there that have never heard of living single. It's just some,
Oh, wow.
it's like,
Oh, that's a whole nother, like, what? Where they do that at?
right. So even though we're Black, we're like visually, aesthetically, we look similar. We are not the same.
Absolutely.
Even
Absolutely. Our cultural upbringing is very different from block to block. And even if you have Black folks that live in the same house, right? Like, I don't have a sibling, but I have seen how siblings are very different and just respond to the world in a very different way.
yeah, even me and my siblings, like I have two brothers. We're very different people, all three of us. But I think that's one thing I've learned about Providence. Rhode Island is that it's a very much a mixing culture, mixing pot of a lot of different cultures. Which I
Hmm.
really appreciate about that. It's just that one that sticks out above everyone else. You like living there, you can quickly and easily see the economic gap between areas where Brown literally sits on a hill just east side of Providence, and you have the clean streets, the nice schools, everything is really well kept. And I drive through certain areas like Smith Hill, which is more a economically struggling, disadvantaged area. And
Okay.
it's a corner to checking cash, the 7-Eleven, the liquor store, and it's filthy over
That's so
there.
unfortunate. Always a liquor store, right? Like that's one of
Liquor store,
those
checking cash.
challenges. Yep,
Yep.
no matter where you are, and not even just the US. It's in the continental US for sure. But I remember I spent some time ending my grad school career in Puerto Rico, and
Mm.
they were like, "Oh, Loisa, that's where the darker skinned Puerto Rican people are." Girl, we soon as we drove to Loisa, what do I see? I see like abandoned cars, liquor stores. I'm like, I ain't seen this nowhere else in Puerto Rico. Are you serious?
And that's the thing. Is so for me, like I said, I grew up in Inglewood. We moved from Inglewood to Bronzeville pre-gentrification, which I love Bronzeville now. But I remember IDB was projects, so we did not live far from it. We lived on the
Mm-hmm.
track, so I remember the time before the park and the track. Like it was not there before, and that's the time I grew up there. So for me, I have a very different experience from other Black people in Providence because my world has been Black. My middle school whole world was my neighborhood's all Black. Where there is it's very much mixed, in which I appreciate that. But
Mm-hmm.
the issue is when it comes to providing spaces for people of different backgrounds and demographics, it's just not there. And
Yeah.
so that's actually why I started the Black Leaf Tea and Culture Shop, where I grew up drinking teas. Is something that I loved. I love the feeling, the comforting feelings of it. Academically, my background is in nutrition and food science. In grad school, I majored in food science, concentrating in product development. So it's kind of worked well together for me. But that's all in all why I started the Black Leaf Tea and Culture Shop. I wanted to create something to blend my love for teas and also engage in community and celebrating Black culture.
I love it. That is such a powerful story. That is so dope. And I had no idea that that's what you studied in grad school. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
One of the things I've been loving about interviewing women is that I have learned so much about people that I'm connected to in some form or fashion. And
yeah.
so I think it's awesome. I just tagged my coach, who I had an interview with yesterday, because I saw your new T Money. And this is getting totally off topic, but I saw your new T Money, and she is a money coach, and I was like, girl, you got a partner with Amber, and I'm putting it out here into the world. You may have to do me a resilience blend, girl. We
I,
got to do.
I'm constantly creating new things. I tell people all the time, like I do consider myself a creative. Where for other people they do art, they do music. For me,
Yes.
creative avenue is flavor and it's food, it's beverages and cocktails. Where like last summer, I partnered. People don't if you don't know, Providence is very big on like restaurants and bars and artesian foods and drinks. And so, I worked with 5 bars last summer, and they all created tea infused cocktails with my teas. And it was
Come on, Amber. Yes.
because also Johnson and Wales is a well-known culinary arts program, and a lot of people that graduate from there and they stay and they open restaurants and bars, and so and also kind of playing off the term, they don't use it often in Rhode Island or Providence, which irritates my soul. But Providence, they have the claim as the creative capital, and
Hmm.
so being able to work with so many creatives, whether it be for a tea project, a cocktail, or different events, I've had the most fun doing that. And so, yeah, I just got to be, that's my creative avenue. I love flavors. I love playing with food. And so that's why I chose my major. I actually chose food science when I was 12 because
I love it.
initially I wanted to be a chef and then I learned how competitive that space was. But I used to watch Food Network all day when I was at home. Whenever I was rarely at home, but when I was at home, it was Food Network. And I loved Good Eats by Alton Brown and understand the science behind it and like everything else with that. And so once I got to mainly when I got to grad school, because my undergraduate program is mostly nutrition, which was also incredibly helpful to understand like statistics and demographics and how that all goes into government programs and things like
Hmm.
that. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to do was when I got to grad school, which was food science, understanding that it's an interdisciplinary study. So it's everything from food engineering, chemistry, food law. proteins, enzymes. It's a mixture of everything. And so I got to do what I really wanted to do at that point. But I got to turn that into a business. So when I was in grad school, the school lost my research grant, which is how I got into athletics.
Oh
Uh,
no.
and my friend, he worked in athletics, and he was like, "Oh, you're a former D1 athlete. Like, we have a spot over here." And so I interviewed with my soon-to-be boss, and she hired me on the spot, and I was now pretty much her personal assistant, and I loved it. And so that's how I got into athletics from food science. But starting my business ended up being kind of a full circle moment. I wasn't planning on.
So, I mean, granted, I haven't asked you a single question, but I feel like you gave us kind of a little bit about like what that is, right? Like, so the first question is like, what is an obstacle you turned into an opportunity? But you just told us.
It was,
You literally.
yeah, I mean, it was definitely that. I mean, it's really just I feel like I'm a pretty audacious person, and I tell people all the time. I feel like timing and alignment has worked so much in my life. Like I won't say I'm not the most religious person, but I have a very close relationship with God. That's my homie. We talk every day, and so I'm very trusting in Him, and I believe in alignment. And I will say that timing and alignment in my life has played out so well. I just like I trust it. And so when if I hadn't gone to Alabama A&M, I wouldn't have gone to athletics. If it wasn't in athletics, I wouldn't have got to Brown. If I hadn't got to Brown to be in Providence, Rhode Island, I had no reason to start my business.
Yeah.
So everything has worked out how it's supposed to. But being there, and like I said, right time, because when I was a kid, even high school, even college, I was incredibly shy. I was never very comfortable with myself. And so even me being in the right space with myself to even start a business, it was just the right timing. And I tell people all the time, like I didn't really feel like I grew into my grown womanhood to like 25, closer to 26. And I was 27 when I started my business. I was almost 28. But it was just right timing and understanding this is what I want to do. At that point I felt like I was a pretty audacious person, and I understood that if you want to see certain changes, if you want to see things in motion, you have to do them yourself. Because if you sit and wait for someone to create what you want, it's not going to happen. And so I wanted to have a space that I and my friends and other people, especially transplants that come to Providence, Rhode Island, could feel welcome, could feel like this is a space that's for them. Which is why with my business, I also have my own Young Black Professionals Mixers pre-pandemic. And I also host a conversation series called Tea Talks. So it's kind of a replica of another conversation series called The Grapevine, which is by Ashley Acuna. It's based in Brooklyn, and it's a YouTube series. And that's what I decided that I want to actually, create spaces and curate conversations for people that look like me that don't have a space here. Because I tell people, because Rhode Island has, I think, 7 or 8 colleges. And so they get a lot of transplants coming in. But I even have friends that, did their postdoc at Brown. They left because it's like, why would I stay if I don't see me here? And that's an
Right.
issue. Because every person deserves to have a space that feels like it's theirs. And I tell people like very authentically, like and openly, being the only Black person in a white space, it's very uncomfortable. I can feel your eyes on me. When
Yep.
I'm out
All the
there,
time. All the time. I went to a predominantly white institution as well. And I just told the story yesterday about literally, I had one of those experiences where I had the professor look at me and say, "So tell me what Black folks think." And I was like, who are you talking to? Like, I
not
can tell you what I think.
right. But people have a hard time. As I said even earlier, I feel like people have gone to a space now they have a better understanding that Black people are not a monolith. We don't all have the same experiences. Culturally, we're not all the same because we come from different places. Even living in Rhode Island, I had never heard of Cape Verde before in my life, but it's a lot of Cape Verdeans there. They look like me, but a lot of them do not consider themselves Black. They look
Yeah.
like they can be my cousin. They're like, they will argue you up and down to their last breath. They are not Black. It's like, sir, ma'am, Mrs. I see you look like me. Your hair is thicker than mine, please. But they will argue down. And I said, not all of them, but there are many that will tell you I am not Black. And so even
Wow.
culturally, I think even being in a space where even though it's an Ivy League, and I was like Brown it's fairly diverse, and they do have spaces for some of the students there. But I even saw it earlier in the summer after George Floyd's murder. A lot of
Mhm.
them started speaking up. There's a whole page on Instagram. I think it was Black and Ivy or Ivy Black Ivy page, And across the 8 Ivies, they're all talking about their experiences, where even though they have certain groups for the minority students or Black students or Asian students, Hispanic students, or excuse me, Latino students, they are often ostracized by their professors, by other students. They experience discrimination and racism as well. So just because it's an Ivy League, because you're in a city of an Ivy League, you're not excluded from those experiences either. So even creating spaces outside of the campus for me was also very important. But also, Brown has a very, very clear conflict of interest clause. So I keep it as far away from Brown's name as possible. But that was very important for me, that people felt like they had a space.
Absolutely. So I hear the obstacle to opportunity. I hear the resilience that you have brought into everything that you're doing. And that's awesome. I'm sitting here just like glowing and been like, yes, I'm rooting for you, Amber. So it is Women's History Month, and you obviously get some of this from somewhere, right? Like you get it from part of it, I'm sure, family. Part of it, I'm sure, is like folks that you've studied or whatever. But who is a woman that you admire and why?
I would have to say my mother. I constantly admire her perseverance, her resilience, her ability to change and adjust. Even as a child, like she raised my brother and I by herself. Also making sure, as a growing up, we had everything we needed. And I would say pretty much almost all of what we wanted as well. She did it by herself. She constantly pushed me to be my best. She was always someone that I could have very open conversations with. And I think that as a young woman, that was very important to me, that I had that relationship with my mother where I was never afraid to have open conversations with her. And now as an adult, it's even more of that, even now, where it kind of transitioned from being like a mother and daughter, but now it's like that's like my friend now. It's still the boundaries, she's my mother, but it's a very open relationship. But she has always encouraged me to strive for the best and to be myself. Like I said, as a kid, I was extremely shy. Like we would go places. I was like a little kid. She's like, "Go play with the kids." I'm like, "I don't know them." And I'll just be on the whole time. But even now, as like an adult, and having her say, I think it was maybe in like January or so. She's like, "I really admire you. Always seem to have a very clear sense of direction." I'm like, "Girl, I don't know what I'm doing, but thank you." But even with that, like even like I said, like she's not old. She has
That's
every bit.
powerful to hear that from your mom. That's wonderful.
Fulfilling, because as an adult, I can acknowledge where how she wasn't allowed to be her full self, because she was kind of she had borders, she had boundaries, where for me, she allowed me to figure things out for myself. She pushed me to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
There was no such thing as can't, you figure it out. But I think for me, I think that's also where I get some of my audacious sense as well, because I can see where if she had had that space, if she had had the nurturing that she gave to me, that she could
Hmm.
have fulfilled more. But she gave that to me because she didn't have that.
That's powerful. I love that. That
And
is, yes, an ode to your mama. You got to make sure she sees this
I tell
because,
I tell her all the time, like I appreciate her, because my thing is for me, like I said, she's always been very protective. She's like, one thing you do not play about is Marcella Denise's babies. And she's always made that clear. She does not play about Amber or Justin. But she fought for us, like always, whether in school. She had very, very clear standards for me also. And it's just like, you have no choice but to rise to this. I
Mhm.
think the only time that I got pushed back from her was when I was in grad school, and I told like I can't finish my thesis. Like, well, you can't. I like there was no room for me to finish my thesis, and like going back and forth with her, she's like, I did. I had to apologize. I snapped at her. I was like, because I don't want to, but just understanding for me, like I that she allowed me to have that space and have that conversation with her. So that's the relationship that we have. So her being able to create a space that I feel comfortable being myself, growing into myself. And so I tell people, like, me being shy wasn't because of her. It was just I was never comfortable with myself. I was a
Yeah.
really awkward kid. And so I was given the space, especially when I got older, to do so without judgment from her. We
Mhm.
have open conversations now about her experiences and how we can relate to each other. Even when it came to my business, I did not ask her for money, but she gave me my first investment, and it was just
Yes, come on, mama.
we were just like, we were just talking, and I was very passionate about it, very clear about what I was doing and why. And she was like, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do," and she gave me $5,000. And that's how I pay for all my legal fees. That's how I pay for the food incubator, the startup materials, my legal fees, because I did a package with a lawyer. So they did my LLC and my trademark together. So my business's name, the Black Leaf Tea and Culture Shop, it federally belongs to me because it is trademarked. So
That's you did it the right, Amber. That is a lesson in itself right there for people.
yeah,
And that's not even what we talking about. Like we're not even talking about the entrepreneurship game, but that is so powerful and that's such a lesson because so many of us, we kind of fall into entrepreneurship. We do things and we just kind of get going. And so the fact that you have trademarked that Federal Express Small Business Grant business that y'all going to vote for every single day until March 24th. We
yeah.
appreciate that. So, last question for you
Mhm.
is, and it's funny because I think you're my second or third millennial that I've asked. So, I can't wait to hear what the song is that I've interviewed.
Uh-huh.
So, what is your woman empowerment song? What's the song that gets you going?
I have been sitting on that, and it is hard because it's so many. I would say I will give a calmer one and my ratchet one. We're gonna roll with it. I give three. So I think my first one would be
Girl, two. I'm gonna limit you to
okay.
two. I'll give you two, but not three.
It's hard. Okay, I would say the first one's a bit more calmer. Is Taking the Bangers roller coaster.
Okay.
Um, is really about just diving into fear and just embracing that feeling.
Okay.
And the other one, my favorite little ratchet one, is really about Meg the Stallion. Those are my current two. So it's a lot. It's a lot of them. But I think right now, if I had to choose today, it would be those two.
Those two. Okay. Awesome. Well, that is great. Amber, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing part of your story. I absolutely love to have learned so much more about you. I am a fan of your teas. I actually have a gift card. One of my girlfriends gave me a gift card to your company. So I got to go on the website and order something. She has some cute mugs, you all, that she just got. The curated boxes, are they gone already?
That one actually sold out in 26 hours.
That
So
that's what I'm talking about. She had a curated box with some other things. She has the new money tea. She has a Chi Town tea, you
yes,
all. So go get that. That's what I'm gonna order so I can mix with some hot chocolate and see
that
how I'm
one is
feeling.
very, very special. So that one I decided to do as a charity, as a donation. So 20% of the Chi Towel blend is going to My Block, My Hood, My City, which is a nonprofit organization here that goes to the empowerment of Black communities and exposing young Black people to things that happen. So even just going downtown, STEM projects, going out the country to different schools and things like that. So they really invested into the empowerment of the Black community, and that's where that 20% of each sale of the Chi-Town blend goes to.
Awesome. That is wonderful. So I need you in the lab because I need a resilience tea. I'm putting you on the spot. We're gonna have to figure some things out.
I've been experimenting with a couple other blends, so I have some more coming. But it's I'm working right now to do a small rebranding because
Okay.
I have some money to play around with just off of revenue. So that's another thing why the FedEx grant is so huge for me. So I own and operate alone. So every blend is hand blended myself. Every sticker on the bags. I just for me to begin to build a team, for me to hire someone to do co-packing, for me to hire someone to focus a bit more on the marketing side. So that is why that grant is so big for me, just because I own and operate alone and I work full time. So I don't have it's a bit strenuous. I love what I do. I love that I'm able to give back so much to the community. Even Chicago, even though I'm not here, I'm able to give something back as well. But I would love to be able to expand my brand even more than what it is now, because it is a national brand. I sell all the way to Hawaii. So I'm excited to be able to continue to do that and getting into stores and more retailing spaces, but really being able to stabilize my business by stabilizing the inventory, be able to actually start to build a team, because I can't, you can, and no one can do everything by themselves. And so being able to build a team would be incredible for me. So please, please, please go to the FedEx Small Business Grant Contest link and vote every day. It ends on March 24th. So I need your personal email, your work email, your mama's email, throw it all in there. You're allowed one vote per person, one vote per email every 24 hours. So if you set an alarm on your phone to remind you, hey, it's time, go ahead and vote and fill up every email that you have, throw them all in there. So I really appreciate it.
I love it. It has been such a pleasure. I hope you all have enjoyed learning about Amber Jackson and her business. Please go to that FedEx link. I put it in the description so you can easily click and make sure you're voting for her every single day. Order some tea from her. Let's help this young woman grow her business and continue to support. Hope everyone has a great day. Amber, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.